again, Brian. Chad taking that far inside line. He must have heard what I said.
Well, one thing that you got to watch, because here at Daytona with this sand, you can't sit in someone's roost too long, because no matter how good your goggles are, they run a laminate and tear off, you still can eat a lot of roost. But Ricky Carmichael never waits. Like sometimes I would like to pressure. If I got behind David, I'd want to push on him a little bit to maybe frustrate him. Ricky Carmichael, if there's a door open, he takes the first chance and just runs with it.
Yeah, he doesn't hesitate. Same with James Stewart. Both those guys, they never hesitate. And that pressure is so difficult to deal with. Rick, when I had you on me, or Bob Hanna, you were the only two guys that ever really bothered me that bad. And Chad has done an outstanding job at holding this pressure off. He's got a gap now because Ricky made a mistake trying to run this pace.
Yeah, we had a really good close-up of Chad going through the whoops, and in the background, Ricky Carmichael swaps and loses about 2.5 seconds. So that's what I'm talking about. Don't think that a lead of under 10 seconds is going to make a difference.
You know how I was able to finally deal with the pressure with you is watch Ricky's mistake. Probably going to get a little bit cross-rutted. That's what he did the first lap. Actually a little bit worse. That save right there doesn't surprise me at all, but what happened was he lost a lot of time. And going back to the pressure and how to deal with it, if you think about how many laps are left, it's too overwhelming. So I used to just think, if I could just hold you off one more lap, then I was in the clear. Maybe I'd get a gap, and that's what's happened for Chad. Now he can relax just a little bit.
A very similar race that David, you and I had in Japan, where we had a lot of lappers. We ran a GP, and the lappers determined the outcome. You know, you'd get a lap, you catch a lapper, I'd catch you, I'd get a lead, same thing. So now Ricky Carmichael is stuck behind Tyler Evans, and you can see the gap of about 2.5 seconds of the split between the two riders.
The last lap, Reed turned a 56.6, Carmichael a 57, probably because of the mistake. They've got almost a 19 or 20-second lead now over third place. LaRocco is holding off Villeman, and Preston rounding out the top 5. We promise there's other riders in this race, but this is just too good.
And we asked, of course, Greg White specifically asked Ricky Carmichael, when do you start racing points? Are we seeing that happen right now, or is he still on the chart?
He will throw the title away because he wants to win this so bad. You know what's important? I was talking to a friend of mine today, and I'm going, if Chad Reed can win Daytona, that would be a huge upset. On paper, Chad's just as good in the sand and all that. But I think everybody here would agree it would be a huge upset. And my friend goes, dude, it's Gettysburg. Whoever wins this race could win the war.
Exactly. That's what we've seen historically. 15 times the Daytona winner has come out the Supercross 250 champion. You're watching Chad Reed with our Rhino Cam riding alongside him on the racetrack there. We've got so much great action here and so many ways to look at it. Reed has definitely maintained. He has increased the lead again to 2 seconds, partially because of Carmichael's mistake, but this is just too close to call just yet, and we got 7 more laps of it.
All it takes is one little swap in the whoops, one little flash of a wheel, and Ricky Carmichael's going to be back on Chad Reed's wheel. So the race is not over, and like David said, this could decide the title. You know, if Chad beats Ricky, he could get flustered. I don't see him. I've seen a lot of guys beat him, and I don't see him get too sideways when it comes to an overall championship. But
you never see him be beat at Daytona.
Exactly.
That's a different deal.
You know, you watched Kevin Windham beat him a little bit 2 years ago in the outdoors, and that frustrated him, and also when Chad beat him a little bit in the Supercross. But right now, like I said, the lappers are going to play a big part in this race.
We'll be right back with more from the Daytona Supercross by Honda. The 2 leaders are a 1.5 seconds apart. Everybody else is nowhere to be seen. Here we are, and the battle is still on. It is still just over a second difference between the 2 leaders. Chad Reed and Ricky Carmichael are 22 seconds ahead of the third-place rider, Mike LaRocco. David Buellman, the running order is on the top of your screen, and folks, you're going to have to be satisfied with that for the moment, because we're going to watch these 2 guys race, and you are sitting on top of Ricky Carmichael's helmet.
Second place last year, Kevin Windham has now moved into the top 5, but nowhere near these guys. I mean, we could go back in the pack and show you some of that, but there's not much of a battle. And you know what? This is what the season is about. Ricky Carmichael and Chad Reed. Chad Reed putting it to him on Carmichael's track.
Ricky Carmichael making a small mistake in that rhythm section and losing more time to Chad.
Nice save by Chad Reed.
No, he got stalled out a little bit, though, and lost some time there. So Carmichael, maybe it's going to come down, fellas, to the one who makes the fewest mistakes at this point. One mistake might not be enough.
They're so on the edge right now, and they cannot go any faster than this without paying a huge price for it.
Here we look at Carmichael. Carmichael, what he does is he gets off of this, and he gets off rhythm a little bit, and he faces that jump, loses a lot of time. But Ricky Carmichael's so strong, so physical, it really doesn't make that big of a difference. He loses time, but he doesn't injure himself.
I wonder what would happen just a moment ago as they lapped Tim Ferry. Carmichael, you can see just passing the rider in the blue back there, number 15, Tim Ferry. Of course, Chad Reed's teammate. I wondered if he would put up a little bit of resistance, but he didn't.
Ricky Carmichael casing that triple again, so Ricky having a lot of trouble in that rhythm section, and Chad Reed squeaks out a little more space.
Let's go to Greg White.
Well, I'm standing down here in Mechanics Alley where all the pit boards come out, and last time Ricky Carmichael came by, his foot got caught and kicked back when he was going through a rut. And as he was going by, he was shaking his head, so not a good sign when a rider's shaking his head, right, fellas?
Well, definitely. Ricky Carmichael frustrated because Chad Reed is making less mistakes. You made a good point, Brian. It's going to be who makes the least amount of mistakes at this race, because a track this fast, this edgy, you're going to make mistakes. It's who makes the least amount.
We're inside 4 laps to go, David Bailey.
Carmichael's running out of time. He's got such a huge gap to make up. It's going to take a major mistake from Chad Reed at this point, or some sort of a miracle from Ricky Carmichael, which would see.
Whoa! Oh, there's the mistake. It's not Reed, it's Carmichael that does it. He's got plenty of time to pick the bike up. Does he have enough to get it started? Is he going to get passed by anyone out there? LaRocco on the number 5 machine is the next man back, but it was 30 seconds. So Carmichael returns to the track, still in second place.
Probably not going to have a rear brake either with all that plastic melting onto the disc. It's on the right side of the wheel, caught up in there. He's not going to give up second place, but it's got such a huge gap with the wind. I think he can kiss that goodbye now. Chad Reed has put him away.
He's still got a part of that flag caught in his wheel. Take another look at what happened.
He starts to swap side by side, loses it, hits one of the hay bales, goes down, and then down hard on the asphalt. You can see the banner start to suck up into his rear wheel, and as David was saying, it was on the right side. We watch, he loses, swaps sideways, loses the front wheel, back wheel, then over the bales, and down he goes.
You know what's cool, though? Look how long he hung on to that. He hung on till the pavement, going, maybe I can save it, maybe I can save it. He's done it so many times before. The Chad Reed pace, which he started in the first practice session this afternoon, edging Ricky Carmichael for the fastest lap, the fastest heat. He put the pressure on, and Ricky had to answer it, and he just couldn't quite get it done.
I have to ask, how does having that flag, and may I point out that it's a Honda flag stuck in the Suzuki, how does that affect Ricky Carmichael's race right now?
Well, what happens is as we're talking about, it gets into the back brake rotor, and what it does is the plastic melts. What it does, it glues the brake pads, so the brake pads lose their adhesive, so Ricky Carmichael basically has no rear brake, has to use just his front, and he has to be very complacent and just finish the race.
Well, the bad news for Ricky Carmichael is that he's probably not going to win the Daytona Supercross. The good news is he had a fairly substantial championship points lead, and maybe he'll take some consolation from that after this race is over.
Well, we still got to look at how many races Ricky's won this year, and he's not going to win the Daytona Supercross, but you have to understand, when he lost that race in San Diego, he bounced back and beat Chad, went straight to him. So, you know, here we've seen Chad Reed Ricky Carmichael beat Chad on a technical Supercross track, and now we've seen Chad Reed beat Ricky Carmichael. But you know what, though? This race isn't over. With lappers and the way people go down, anything still can happen.
Let's give credit where credit is due. Here's your leader, Chad.